we, the nation, keep a faith that's strong. Deep inside, it's because we know that very soon it will be time to go. Time to see why the world began, to know the end of that eternal plan. All along it was meant to be. This is our destiny, and the time is now. So keep on trying here and now. There's no denying what we could achieve if we would only believe. One more mitzvah is all that we need. Can't you tell? It's almost over every day. We'll hear that shofar, and then when we do, we'll know that Galus is through. We can do it. Now is the time. Sound the call. It's almost over, one and all. We'll hear that shofar, and then when we do, we'll know that Galus is through. We can do it. Listen well. The time is now.
Welcome to the Howie Silbiger Show on the True Talk Radio Network. Get in on the conversation. Call 1-877-669-1292.
And welcome to the Howie Silbiger Show right here on the True Talk Radio Network. My name is Howie Silbiger, and boy, what a day I've had. It's been one of those days. And I don't often have days like this, but this has been quite a day. It started off this morning, and I want to share with you how crazy this day has been, and how I have been fighting Jew hatred from Jews and from non-Jews all day long, from morning till evening. I have done nothing but fight Jew hatred. I had a lot of work to do. I had a lot of stuff I had to finish, but I did not get to do half the stuff I wanted to do today because I was busy fighting for Jews and fighting for orthodoxy and standing up to Jew haters. And I can't believe how many there are. It's mind-boggling how many Jew haters there are in the city, because I was talking mostly to people in the city. How many Jew haters there are and how many Jewish Jew haters there are. It's absolutely mind-blowing, really. So it started off early this morning when, and this is always a result of something I post on Facebook, of course. A couple of days ago, I posted an article about the chief rabbis of Israel, stating that they don't believe that using Zoom during a Pesach Seder is appropriate. So there was a rabbi a couple of weeks ago who made a decision that using Zoom during the Passover Seder during this pandemic would be an appropriate thing to do. And other rabbis looked into it and said, no, we don't think that's the case. And so they decided that they were going to come up with their own ruling, saying that they don't agree with that and that they don't want, they don't agree. They think it's against halacha, against Jewish law, to use Zoom during during the pandemic, when people are isolated. It's against the law. So I posted both articles. So I posted the original article, which weeks ago, that said that maybe we could use Zoom, and then I posted the article the other day saying that Zoom was unacceptable. And what happened? Of course, a Jewish guy attacks immediately, comes in and attacks, and says those rabbis who made that decision have blood on their hands. They're murderers because they made a decision? They're murderers because they're not letting you use a computer during Passover Seder? It's mind-blowing that people think this way. But it's really not that mind-blowing when you come to think that people also think that a musician standing in a driveway of a politician's house while the politician is in the house is somehow violating the contact rules and somehow violating the safety measures put in to save people from capturing the SARS coronavirus. It seems that people in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of this massive worldwide pandemic, which is dangerous and killing people have lost their minds. Now, we noticed people lost their minds earlier when they hoarded toilet paper and they hoarded and they were hoarding paper towels and stuff like that. When there was no shortage of this stuff, we knew they lost their minds earlier, but they've gone even nuttier, and people have become militant to a point where it's become almost unbearable. It's really unbelievable how crazy it's become. So, this guy said that these rabbis had blood on their hands. And when I questioned him, I said, what do you mean they have blood on their hands? I don't understand. I don't understand how you could accuse these rabbis of murder for making a religious decision which you could follow or not follow. It's your choice if you want to follow their ruling or you don't want to follow their ruling. How is this murder? So then he went on this rant about how Orthodox Jews in general are not following the guidelines of the government and they're spreading disease and that he is a prophet and he has to stand up and fight. Now, normally this guy is rational, and in this case here, he was totally irrational. And the more I conversed with him, and this went on for about an hour, the more I conversed with him, the more I realized how insane this situation has made him. And how insane the situation has made a lot of people. It's gone totally, it's totally crazy. We're in a crazy situation, don't get me wrong. We're in a nutty situation. But nutty situations should not bring out Jew hatred, should not bring out hatred of one Jew against another. That's first of all. And second of all, when we're talking about the non-Jews that hate Jews, this should not do this either. But this is what's happening. So then a couple of days ago, Lionel Perez, city councilor in Montreal, his daughter got engaged, and he decided that he's in quarantine with his family. There are four of them living in the house in quarantine. They have not left the house. His son has been diagnosed with the coronavirus and is quarantined. And the rest of the family that lives there is quarantined too. His daughter got engaged over Zoom with her boyfriend who was in New York. To celebrate the engagement, since they couldn't have an engagement party, what he did was, knowing that there's social distancing and that he couldn't have people come over, his son is infected with the virus, and which means that they're all pretty much in the same boat. So having people over was unthinkable and really immoral. So what he did was he hired a musician, Yo Eisenstark, who's an excellent musician, amazing guy. They hired Yo Eisenstark to come to his house and set up in his driveway, at the end of his driveway, far away from the house, right at the end of the driveway. So driveways are fairly long, and he was set up right at the end of the driveway. And he played music at the end of the driveway. There were no crowds around him. And the Perez family stayed in their home. But one of Lionel Perez's neighbors, decided to call the police. They called the police, and the police came and told Joe to go home and broke up the party, as the Montreal Gazette and CTV News put it this morning. Although there wasn't a party to break up. It was just him and his family, and they all lived in the house. And they were all in the house. So essentially, he just asked the musician to stop playing and go home. But that was a party they broke up. But they made a big deal about breaking up the party. So Yo Eisenstark, the musician, decided that he was going to post up on Facebook, and he was going to clarify the situation because Lionel Perez was getting a bad rap. He was getting a bad deal here. And so Eisenstark put up a posting, a fairly long posting, where he explained that he was at the end of the driveway, that the Perez family stayed in the house, and social distancing was there. There was no violation of social distancing whatsoever. There were no crowds that crowded around. People came out onto their porches and were dancing on their porches, but nobody was mingling. Nobody got out onto the street. Nobody got together to dance. people pretty much stayed away from each other, which is what they were supposed to do. There was no violation of the guidelines at all. But that's not how the media depicted it. And when I put that up on my Facebook, and I tagged Yo Eisenstark, and I tagged the politician Lionel Perez, and then I went to eat dinner. About halfway through dinner, my phone beeps, and it's a text message from Yo Eisenstark saying, "Hey Howie, did you see the comments on your posting on Facebook?" And I said, no, I did not see the comments on my posting on Facebook. I didn't see it. And so he said, well, you should take a look. So I went and I took a look, and there were approximately 60 postings at the time I went, the time I took a look. For some reason, Facebook wasn't sending me notifications that people were posting there. I had no idea. So there were 60 posts by the time I got to look at it. And I took a look at it, and about 5 or 6 of them were really, really anti-Jewish. No, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about blatant anti-Jewish. I mean, people of your tribe do this, and you have no respect for anybody else. You know, that kind of anti-Jewish. I'm not talking about. Maybe yes, maybe no. This was direct. Look what happened at the Crown Plaza, and you people just don't care. I mean, direct. So I asked each one who made this accusation, I asked him the simple question. I said, where was the violation? Could you explain to me? One of them said it was a lethal decision. I said, okay, explain to me how it was lethal. I'm trying to understand. Now, please, I just want someone to explain it to me. I am trying to understand how this was a lethal situation. There was one man standing in the driveway playing music, and there were 4 people inside a house, inside a private residence, inside the building, dancing to the music the man was playing in the driveway. The man wasn't anywhere near the house wasn't anywhere near the man, and the twains never met. How was this a lethal situation? And this question I asked to at least 6 people who made this accusation, and nobody answered me because there is no answer to it. It's not a lethal situation. It's not even illegal. It's not even a violation of the Quebec government's rulings on what you can and can't do. You're allowed to stand alone outside. And if you're standing alone outside playing music, you're allowed to do that too. Just ask Martha Wainwright, who stood for an hour on her porch playing her guitar and singing to people who wanted to listen. But it was a Jew. And you people are responsible for this. That was the point. The point wasn't that it was a city councillor, who violated or seemed to violate. The optics were bad, whatever you want to call it. It's the fact he's Jewish, visibly Jewish. So one guy, I mean, half of it was in French, half of it was English. I was moving back and forth between French and English, and one guy says to me, in French, he says to me, he says, you guys always accuse the Quebecois of being racist. There are Quebecois out here who like different minorities. And so I answered him. I said, hey, listen, buddy. I was born in Montreal. I was raised in Montreal. I've lived in Montreal my entire life. Doesn't that make me a Quebecois? I mean, I was born here. Does that make me not as Quebecois as you? Why does religion have to come into this? Earlier, we had discussed, I referred to one person as a racist. He says, Jews aren't a race. I said, fine, I'll accept that. Then why are you bringing up religion? I didn't want to get into the ethnicity, race, religion debate with them. They wouldn't understand it anyway. So I decided to, just go, why did you bring up religion? How does religion factor into this whole conversation? If you're upset that a city councillor had a musician playing for his daughter's engagement in his driveway, that religion should have nothing to do with this. Your complaint should just be about this city councillor. The second you bring in the Jewish city councillor, then suddenly this whole debate changes. And it's not about the city councillor anymore. Now it's about the Jewish community. So we gotta be clear. We gotta be clear about this. If this was a political debate, much like it was at City Hall, where Mayor Plante got up and said, "Hey, listen, it was poor judgment. The city councillor made poor judgment." That would be a political argument, and a totally acceptable political argument. She has entitled to her opinion. Whether it was poor judgment or not poor judgment, I'm not going to judge him. I don't care. That's irrelevant to the extent of this conversation. But the question is, the moment you say the Jewish city councilor, then the whole argument changes. Now it's not about him being a city councilor and potentially violating the rules of the self quarantine or violating whatever guidelines there are out there. It's not about a city councilor acting irresponsibly. Let's say, I'm not saying he did, but let's say, like, for argument's sake, it's not about a city councilor doing wrong. Now it's about a Jew doing wrong. A Jewish city councilor. Changes everything. And that's where my issue lies. It doesn't lie in the criticism of Lionel Perez doing whatever he did. Fine, he's a politician. Politicians have to be cognizant of what the optics are. My problem is that he was pointed out as a Jewish politician. That brings in the Jewish community. Because then suddenly people were arguing. Oh, but look at what happened in Boisbriand. I mean, Boisbriand's blocked off because the Jews can't control themselves. And take a look what happened at Southmere when they took away all that wine yesterday. Because the Jews don't violate the laws. The Jews think they're above the law. Then suddenly, the argument goes beyond politics. It escalates beyond politics. And now it's not the city councilor did something wrong, which it should be if that was the argument. It's now the Jews are responsible for everything. It becomes a blood libel. And this is what should scare you. It scares me. It should scare you. And it should scare every single person who cares about fairness, who cares about basic decency. Blaming an entire community is absolutely ludicrous. But they're not the only ones. The French Canadians who are complaining about Lionel Perez and his Jewishness and the fact that the Jewish community is violating everything aren't the only ones who are doing this. And that's where the sad part comes in. That's where the scary part comes in. If you follow the Côte St. Luc, there's two groups on Facebook. One called Côte St. Luc Ideas, run by the city of Côte St. Luc, and one called Côte St. Luc Unauthorized or something, or unedited or unmoderated or whatever. And that's run by a bunch of crazy citizens of Côte St. Luc. Now, if you follow these two groups, you will see that the majority of articles, at least until recently, because the city of Côte St. Luc cracked down and said no more of this, the majority of articles that were posted on the Côte St. Luc board for at least 2 weeks were that Orthodox Jews are responsible for the spread of corona because they're having weddings, and Orthodox Jews are responsible for the high percentage of corona in Côte St. Luc, and Orthodox Jews are responsible for this, and Orthodox Jews are responsible for that. The other one's called CSL Uncensored. Thank you, Fanny. Now, if you read these two groups, you would think that Orthodox Jews are running around licking their hands and touching people's faces. This is what you're going to think, because this is what is being depicted, and the majority of the people depicting this on these groups are Jews, condemning Orthodox Jews. But I don't blame them. I don't blame them. They may be Orthodox Jew-hating people, and there's plenty of Jewish Jew haters. And that might be what's going on there. But I don't blame them, because they are being influenced by the media, which has picked up this whole hype. Have you noticed, and go back and take a look, have you noticed that every single article written about the coronavirus on CTV News and the situation in Côte St. Luc had one of two pictures? Every single article. The first the first picture was the picture of the outside of the Chabad Côte St. Luc building, or another picture was the inside of the Côte St. Luc Chabad building, and the third picture was the center at Cavendish Mall. These are the only pictures that apparently that CTV News, at least online, the CTV News online service has in regards to coronavirus in Côte St. Luc, and they use them over and over and over again. Every article that's posted has a picture of either Chabad or a picture of the testing center in Côte St. Luc. Now, the testing center is fine; it's a government-authorized business, but why so many pictures of Chabad? Because there were 2 cases that were found there? I could find maybe 15 or 20 other organizations that had 2 cases or 3 cases found in them. Why pick on Chabad? Because they had a wedding. They had a wedding that followed the guidelines at the time. Okay, may have been bad. May have been a bad idea to have the wedding, but Chabad doesn't even own their banquet hall there. It's owned by one of the caterers. They have nothing to do with it. So blaming Chabad for the exposure of people at a wedding that they had nothing to do with seems a little mean-spirited, if you ask me. Seems a little, perhaps, anti-religious Jew. But I saw that even before, 3 weeks before at Purim time, when I had when I got a ticket in front of the Chabad. I have to go to the Chabad to get to hear Megillah reading that Purim. And I got a ticket. I parked in a place, and I was in there 5 minutes too long, and I got a ticket. And I posted up the ticket, and I said, all right, I got a ticket. I mean, the guy didn't give me any chance. It was 5 minutes, and, there really should have been a little bit of a leeway, knowing it was Purim, blah, blah, blah. I paid the ticket, by the way. But I got a ticket there. The first thing that people did, the Jews that answered me on that board, first thing they did was say, well, if you're going in there for religious reasons, then you are responsible. And, it wasn't a religious holiday. Maybe you should have thought about that. And on and on and on and on. This Jew hatred has to stop. It is crazy. It is unbelievable and unacceptable. Unacceptable and unbelievable. I want you to call in. Give me a call. 1-877-669-1292. That's 1-877-669-1292. Do you think I am overreacting? Do you think that maybe it's gotten a little out of hand when it comes to the hatred being expressed about Orthodox Jews? Do you think maybe it could be toned down a little bit? Maybe we could start looking around? I mean, I don't hear this hatred being expressed about snowbirds that came in and didn't respect any of the regulations. Nobody's talking about that. And there were more snowbirds than Orthodox Jews that were running around, were potentially infected at the time. But I don't hear anybody talking about the snowbirds. Because the second people started talking about the snowbirds, a bunch of people got up and said, you can't attack old people, and then suddenly it all ended. But it's okay to attack Jews. Orthodox Jews are fine. They're good fodder. Half of them don't have the internet, and the other half will ignore you anyway. So what's the difference, right? It's unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable. And when I call people out on it, and it's so funny. I find it funny. I know I shouldn't find it funny, but I do find it funny. That when I call people out on the fact that they are Jew-hating, and that they were trying to shame Orthodox Jews, when I call people out on that fact, they say, me? I'm a Jew-hater? What are you, crazy? I love Jews. Some of my best friends are Jewish. Give me a break. If you express criticism of the Jewish community, that's fine. If people do things wrong, they deserve to be criticized. If people do things wrong, then I can accept criticism. If you consistently express hatred, if you consistently push it and push it and push it to encourage people to not like a certain segment of the population, that makes you a Jew hater. And that I just don't accept. That I can't accept. That bothers me to no end. 1-877-669-1292 is the number to call. 1-877-669-1292. I'm Howie Silbiger. This is the Howie Silbiger Show, right here on the True Talk Radio Network. We're going to take a little break. When we come back, I want to take your calls. 1-877-669-1292.
trap me. I let my freedom ring. Following the rules was not my thing. Then I found my place. Now I'm in yeshiva. Special space. Never thought I would find. Look at me. I'm a believer in a yeshiva. I got pride. I thought Torah living was a waste of time. I was just a non-believing Jew. Oh, what's the use in praying? It didn't ease the pain. But now I feel the power of a man. 'Cause I found my place. Now I'm in yeshiva. Special space. Never thought I would find. Look at me. I'm a believer in yeshiva. I got pride. Oh, what's the use in praying? Didn't ease the pain. Now I feel the power of a man. 'Cause I found my place. Now I'm in yeshiva. Special space. Never thought I would find. Look at me. Oh, I'm a believer in yeshiva. I got pride. Yes, I found my place. Now I'm in yeshiva. Special space. Never thought I would find. Look at me. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeshiva. I'm a believer. Now I'm a believer in a yeshiva.
You're listening to the Howie Silbiger Show on the True Talk Radio Network. Talk to Howie. Call 1-877-669-1292.
And welcome back to the Howie Silbiger Show right here on the True Talk Radio Network. My name is Howie Silbiger. Number to call once again, 1-877-669-1292. That's 1-877-669-1292. Those of you listening on the stream on the True Talk Radio Network app, thank you so much for downloading the app. Feel free to do that. Those of you watching on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in. And, of course, you're all welcome to call in while the show is live. You're all welcome to call in at 1-877-669-1292. We're talking about Jew hatred during the pandemic, talking about Jewish Jew hatred, non-Jewish Jew hatred, just general Jew hatred. Now, I know it's not a new phenomenon. One of my friends before told me, hey, Howie, what are you going to talk about Jew hatred for? It's been going on for centuries. It's not new. It's not exciting. Nobody is surprised by it. Why does it still get you angry? You know why it still gets me angry? I'll explain it to you. Much like many other diaspora Jews, and we're all, most of us watching are diaspora Jews. I can't say we're all because some of the people watching are in Israel or listening are in Israel. Like most diaspora Jews, you feel comfortable living in the environment that you're in. You feel comfortable living in the towns that you're living in. And so being Jewish in the diaspora is a lot different than being Jewish, let's say, in a Jewish country like Israel. I'm going to hold that thought for a second because somebody just called in. Let's see who's on the line. Hi, welcome to the program.
Hey, what's up, sir? I'm masturbating my boycott too, Daddy. I like getting off with older men. Oh, I do, sir.
Thank you so much
like
for
that.
calling.
Like
That was exciting. Thank you.
Oh, I love.
Okay, so there are weirdos out there. 1-877-669-1292. I appreciate the call though. It was very stimulating. Now, moving on. Jews living in the diaspora. It is a situation where you get comfortable living where you're living, and when things like this happen, you start realizing that you don't really fit into this society. You start realizing that we're Jews living in the diaspora. We're not residents of where we're living. When I asked the guy, hey, look, I was born here in Montreal and I was raised here in Montreal and I've lived here in Montreal my whole life. Doesn't that make me as Quebecois as you? He didn't answer. And he didn't answer because he was afraid I was going to call him a racist again for the second or third time. He was afraid I was going to call him a racist. Because the second he would have answered, his answer would have been no. He would have said, no, you're not a Quebecois, you're a Jew. There's a difference between a Quebecois and a Jew, he would have told me. And there is a difference between a Quebecois and a Jew. You're right. He's 100% right. I wouldn't even argue with him because he's 100% right. There is a huge difference between a Quebecois and a Jew. Jews are held to a higher standard. Jews are always held to a higher standard. If this was a French-Canadian politician who hired a French-Canadian musician to stand in his driveway, the backlash would not be half as bad as it is because it's Lionel Perez who wears a kippah and he's an Orthodox Jew wearing a yarmulke and goes to synagogue on a regular basis and is now the official leader of the opposition. If it wasn't for his yarmulke and his religious status as a Jew, it would be a lot different. And how do I know that? Well, let me tell you. There was a big article, a long article written in one of the newspapers online. I read the newspaper online. I remember if it was the National Post or the Gazette, talking about Jews who on Saturday afternoon decided to take their kids to a park. And it was a huge article. It was maybe 1,000 words, which is a long article when you talk about newspaper articles. That's massive. That's a 1,000-word article about Jews who had taken their kids to the park during a pandemic, and how dangerous it is for Jews to be doing this, especially since certain areas of town, of Montreal at least, have high percentages of the coronavirus, and they're predominantly occupied by Jews. And so the article is essentially saying, because Jews live together, and because Jews go to the park on Shabbos, this is a problem, and we should watch out for this. And I read the article. It was very interesting. I think I even shared it. It might be on my Facebook. It's very interesting. I found the article extremely interesting. Why? Because it singled out the Jewish community. And anytime an article singles out the Jewish community, I find it interesting. Why did they single out the Jewish community? Because we have the highest percentage, or a region that we live in, which includes Côte-de-Neige, which is the densest region in Montreal, has the highest percentage of coronavirus out of any other area of the city, but it also has the highest population out of any other area of the city. So is that why they pointed out to Jews? But what about the Indian population? What about the Sri Lankan population? What about the all the other people who live in the region? Do they not count? Do we not care about them? So this is what comes to mind immediately. I just don't get why the Jewish community is singled out. And so I thought about it. And I was out running to get essentials because I've been pretty much self-isolating, and I had to go and buy some groceries. And I was out, not last week, not 2 weeks ago. I've been home for about 2.5 weeks now. But when I was out earlier, before 2.5 weeks, I've been in isolation for over 14 days. But when I was out earlier, I drove by. I drove into one of the other neighborhoods that wasn't a Jewish neighborhood, and there were plenty of people out. There were kids playing basketball in a basketball field, in a court. There were people walking hand in hand in the street, and this was during isolation time. And I'm thinking, why? Why would people not point out these people, but point out the Jews? And I don't have an answer. So if you have an answer, give me a call. 1-877-669-1292. That's 1-877-669-1292. Give me a call if you have an answer to this question, because I don't have an answer to this question. Now, that person that called before who was making those lewd comments on the air, is calling back over and over again. So if you're calling and you get the answering machine, feel free to call around that person. I will be blocking that number shortly, but I can't do it while I'm on the air. So if it jumps to voicemail, feel free to call back because that person is tying up the line for whatever reason. Let's see who this is. Hi, you're on the air.
Hi guys, very hairy around my penis.
Yeah, okay. So you see, it's the same guy. He's calling from different numbers. So if you could try to get through around him. 1-877-669-1292. This is so I find the situation really scary. I find it really, really scary, and I don't know if you find it as scary as I do. I don't know if you find that any time there's a massive pandemic, anytime there's a massive problem, the fingers automatically point towards the Jewish community. Did you find this? I seem to find this, and it bothers me. It bothers me a lot. Do you find this? 1-877-669-1292. That's 1-877-669-1292. Why are the Jews always the scapegoat? Now, I had a theory. And that theory, I've expressed the theory before on the show. I will express it again because it's my theory, and this is the way I think. Why does Jew hatred exist is quite simple. Jew hatred exists because the rest of the world is jealous of the Jewish people. This is why I think Jew hatred exists. We live in a time where Jew hatred where Jew hatred is rampant. Right now, Jew hatred is pretty rampant. Think about it for a second. Let's think about this for 1 second. Why would Jew hatred exist now as opposed to any other time? Because people hate Jews, yeah. But why now? Because anytime there's been a world pandemic, anytime there's been a problem in the world, the Jews have always been the scapegoat. And scapegoating Jews is the way the world works. Now, why the Jews? Well, simply, we had a deal with God. The Old Testament, what the Christians call the Old Testament, we call the Torah. This was our deal with God. Now, the deal with God, is a deal that is perpetual for Jews. It's a deal that we live with forever. The Christians, when they developed Christianity, they had they said we have a new deal with God. Now we have a new Bible, and this Bible supersedes the old deal with God. Fine. If the Bible supersedes the old deal with God, well, then what happens to the old people who still follow the old deal? What do we do with them? What do we do with the people who still believe in the old deal? You can't push a new deal. You can't say there's a new deal with God when there are still people who believe in the old deal. So what do you do with them? Quite simply, you have to kill them. So, crusades and inquisitions to try to kill the people who believe in the old deal. And the people who believe in the old deal, that's fine. They do. They were killed. They were told to convert and believe in the new deal or die. And the more people that believed in the new deal, made it easier for the Christians to sell their religion. Made it easier for the Catholics to sell their religion. Then along came Islam, and the same story. If you have two people now who say they have a deal with God, one old deal, one a new deal, what about our deal with God? So they went on with their jihads to try to kill the Jews, once again, believing that if we destroy the people who believe in the old, then everybody's going to have to accept the new. And this is in my opinion, this is the root of Jew hatred in the world. And this is why people hate the Jews. Because we refuse to give up. We refuse to give up our deal. We refuse to give up our deal with God. We refuse to say that the new deal is the new deal and that our deal is invalid. We're not going to say that. Therefore, people are jealous. And when people are jealous, they decide to destroy us. And so here we are. People are jealous. The Jewish people have families. We have values. We live by our values. We live by our traditions. When the rest of the world is running around, Hefker, the rest of the world is running around as bohemians, living like animals. We are living with family values. We're living with morality. And people are jealous of that. This is my theory. Now, you might not agree with my theory, and that's fine. You don't have to agree with me. And if you don't, feel free to call me, please. 1-877-669-1292. Tell me you disagree, and that's fine. Let's talk about it. But in my opinion, that is why these things are happening. And let's see if this is a real call. Hi.
Hello.
Oh, shoot. I hung up on you. I'm sorry. Call back. I hit the wrong button there. I apologize. 1-877-669-1292. I've been hanging up on this other guy all day, and I just hit the wrong button. I apologize. So call back. I believe that was a real call. Call back, and I'll put you back on the air. I'm sorry about that. 1-877-669-1292 is the number to call. So that's my theory. That is why I think that Jew hatred exists. Now, I might be 100% wrong, and you might disagree with me, and that's fine. You could disagree with me, and you can feel free to call in, 1-877-669-1292. And to that person that just called in, I apologize. I hung up on you by accident. It was my fault, and I apologize. And I hope that you'll call back. How do we counter this? And that's the big question. What could we do as Jews to solve this problem? Now, nobody's been able to solve this problem. There's been centuries already. Nobody's been able to solve the problem. I don't think that we're any smarter than people were a century ago or 2 centuries ago. I really don't believe that we are much smarter than that. So, because we are not smarter than our previous generations, and because we are living in a generation that has technologically advanced, and because we are living in a generation where we have options. The only option to get away from this situation that we're in, the only option is to move to our own country. Now, is moving to Israel, is that a safer option? Is that a better option than living in the diaspora? Some will say much. Others would say not so much. I don't know. I know plenty of people who live here. I know plenty of people who live there. I know that there is some Jew hatred there. I mean, there are people who live there who don't particularly like the Jewish people. People who live there who want to kill the Jewish people. That I know. Is it safer? I don't know. Let's go back to the phones. Hi. Welcome to the program.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, who's this?
This is Karen.
Hi, Karen. Welcome to the program. What's on your mind?
Oh, gee, you're fooling me again.
Here we go again. All right, it's going to be one of those nights. You see, it was one of those days. It's going to be one of those nights. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. You, whoever's calling knows how to spoof phone numbers. And it's amazing. You have technology that you could change your phone number. I'm so proud of you. And, yeah. Anyway. 1-877-669-1292. These people should be proud of themselves. So stupid. We're coming up to Passover now, and this is going to be a very different Passover than Passover has been in the past. Yes, I did use the word past 5 times in a sentence there. Passover this year, you got to be isolated. You got to be by yourself. You can't have family. You can't have friends. It's going to be a lonely Passover for some people. And I hope and I pray that everybody has a Passover that is meaningful in one way or another. We have to take a look at the situation that we're at here now, and we have to make the best of the situation we're in. So if you're going to be alone for Passover and you're going to have to do the Seder alone for the first time, then think about how lucky we are. And I think this is the way we have to look at this. For those of us that are stuck alone at home, and there's plenty of us that are going to be stuck alone at home, we have to think about how lucky we are. How much luck exists in our lives. We're living in freedom. There is nobody holding a gun to our heads. Our lives, aside from the virus, our lives are not really in danger. We are living in a time where Jews are the freest they've ever been in the history in modern history, at least, and we should be happy about that. We should look at the blessings, count the blessings instead of looking at the downside of everything. We should be counting our blessings. We should be counting the blessings that we don't have the coronavirus. For those of you who don't, for those of you who do, I wish you a speedy recovery. But for those of us who don't have the virus, we should be counting our blessings, saying thank you, using the time productively. Instead of sleeping and watching television all day long, we should be finding productive things to do. Expanding our minds, reading books. That's a lost art, isn't it? Reading books, watching informative TV rather than just regular television. Doing what we could do to keep ourselves busy and productive. Because eventually this will end. Eventually we will be going back to our normal lives. And when we do, will things ever get back to normal? That's the big question. Will life ever be the way it was before? Are we ever going to go back to our carefree ways? Are we ever going to trust our neighbors and trust our friends? Are we ever going to be able to stand next to anybody? Are we ever going to do a restaurant again? Are we ever going to go to a movie theater or to a sporting event? These are all questions that have no answers at the moment. And these are all questions we should not be thinking about during the Pesach Seders. What should we be thinking about? We should be thinking about our journey, our escape from Egypt, our journey through the centuries of slavery. We should be asking the question, are we really out of slavery now? Or are we slaves to our traditions? Are we slaves to our jobs and slaves to our schedule? You know, being slaves to our job and slaves to our schedule, this year, we are free. Most people are not working. Most people are slaves to their homes now. So if we are slaves to our homes and we are free, then should we not be celebrating rather than mourning? Should we not be celebrating rather than being upset? It's all about perspective. We all have to look at perspective. I thank God every day that I wake up in a country that I'm free, a country that I could get up and do what I want to do, a country that allows me to get an education, allows me to hold a job, allows me to live as an equal citizen to anybody else in the country. Many people wake up without that privilege. Many people wake up and don't have that right. I thank God that I can walk into a store and buy whatever food item I want to buy. And I could walk and I have plenty of water. And I'm not hungry. And I'm working. And I'm not broke. I thank God every day for that. Because all that could change in a second. As we saw with this pandemic, all that could change in a second. Your job could disappear. Suddenly the pantry's empty. Suddenly the bank account is not as full as it used to be. And suddenly you're on the other end of the spectrum. And it's happened to a lot of people over the last few weeks. Coming out of this, people should learn. There's lessons to learn. And one of the lessons to learn is saving money. Putting aside money for times where we might not be able to make money. Putting away money for times where we might be stuck in isolation. Putting away money as much as we can. It's another lesson we should learn. Value everything. Value everything you have. I'm not saying be materialistic and value your $3,000 watch or your $50,000 car. That's not what I'm talking about. Value the people you have. Many people have died in this pandemic. Many more will. I know at least 3 or 4 people who are infected with the coronavirus, who may or may not make it. Value the relationships you have. Value your friends. Value your families. Talk to them. It drove me crazy. I mentioned it the other day that I go nuts when I hear people complaining that their kids are home. You do realize that your kids being home and driving you crazy at home is a blessing. First of all, it's a blessing that you have kids. Many people do not have kids. And the second blessing is that you get to spend the time with them. And they don't have to spend the time at home alone while you're lying in the hospital on a ventilator. And they're not lying in the hospital on a ventilator. You should be happy and you should be thankful. And you should pray every day and thank God every day that is the situation. We have to be thankful. We have to be prayerful. And let's hope and pray that this virus ends as quickly as it began. Let's hope and pray that we could get back to some sense of normality in the near future. I'll be doing another show on Sunday night, and that will be the last show I'll do before Passover. If you're not here on Sunday night and you don't join me on Sunday night, I want to wish you and your family a happy, healthy, and kosher Passover. I hope that the holiday is meaningful, and I hope that that it's not too depressing. Like I said, we have to make the best of the situation we're in. Thank you so much for listening. I want to thank the person who kept calling in with those crazy calls. I want to thank you all. I appreciate everybody, even people trying to bother me and trying to disrupt the show. I appreciate everybody, including the Jew haters, because without the Jew haters, believe it or not, without the Jew haters, we wouldn't value Judaism at all. Jew haters help us value who we are, help us maintain who we are, and help us keep the faith. So I thank you all, and I bid you a good night. I'll see you next time. And yes, I will see you next time. That was the wrong slide, wasn't it? It was the wrong slide. Haha. You see, that happens. That happens when I'm working by myself. It happens. It should have been this one. So once again, thank you so much. Have a good night.